Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 7, Keeper of the Spire. So Adira shows up for like 10 seconds to tell them, hey, go to this spot. We have a term for those. Those are called vector quests. When you talk to someone and the only quest they give you is to go to the actual quest, which is over there. So thanks for that, Adira. Get off my screen. So, this woman is played by Natalie Palmides. You probably don't recognize her. The most memorable long-term role I could find for her is she apparently plays someone called Ida Clawthorne's teenage version in Owl House. She also, that's it. End statement. Like she's actually a comedian, and she primarily does comical stuff, so she's not really much of an actress. So, cool. So she's really pathetic at everything. Yep. She's really annoying at everything. Yep. And then she's annoying, and then she's annoying, and then she's annoying, and then she's annoying. The asshole's growing. It's growing. Its gravitational field is becoming difficult to escape. Okay. Yep. Just Neelix is a bad cook. We're just gonna. Okay, we're about halfway through the episode now, and all we've done is constantly hit this same point over and over. I actually do have a couple of thoughts as we're going through this. First of all, I really hate people like this in real life who insist that I'm pronouncing something wrong when I'm saying something barely different from the way they're saying it. In fact, in some cases, I literally can't even tell the difference. Again, Spire. You've probably met people like that who insist that it's pronounced, Bob instead of Bob. And in some cases, you can absolutely barely deal with, like you can barely tell that there's any kind of variance in the way you're pronouncing it. In other cases, it's such a minute change that it's like, really? Like, for the record, I do try to be as good about pronunciations as I can be. I obviously fail miserably because linguistics are a thing. But the main thing I tend to try and focus on very heavily is pronunciations of names, because that's just a respect thing at that point. So when I say Mr. Red, I don't see Mr. Reed, for example. Although that does sound cool, but it's unrelated. Reed was a British guy, after all. But, yeah, no. So this episode, I'm going to say this right up front. This is not a lamentation status. You know the biggest reason why? It's because everyone else was with us when it came to Calliope. Because Lou Runaire. Because that was the biggest problem with Adira. The biggest problem with Adira was she was annoying and frustrating and irritating and stuck up and snobbish and too good at everything, and everyone swooned over her. That's that final little step that's necessary to push a character into Mary Sue status, or rather, it's one of the steps that can push him. Calliope is irritating, and that's the point. Everyone's irritated by her. And while that's not good, because deliberately irritating is still irritating, the fact of the matter is it's a lot more tolerable. So while I'm not going to lie to you, Calliope is absolutely dragging this episode down hard, the fact of the matter is it's nowhere near as bad as what happened with Adira. So, cool. I did like Eugene being sweet. Look, Cass and me are way more used to being irritated people. Let us be your irritation buffer. I actually did like that. There's also the stress ball thing. I wanted to comment on that because I had very little to talk about in the first half of the episode, because the first half of the episode is literally just, she's irritating, she's irritating, she's irritating, she's irritating, she's irritating, she's irritating. Stress balls. I know a lot of people that work for anybody in chat or on the YouTube comments when this finally comes out. Anybody actually have that kind of a thing? Does it work for you is essentially what I'm asking, because stress balls have never worked for me, but I do understand the concept. Having a brief vent in some form or another can be extraordinarily helpful for me. I'm weird, and that my venting things are kind of like site specific. Like, I don't have like one universal thing I can do to vent. How I vent depends on the thing that's irritating me. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. For example, if I get a really bad comment on YouTube, one of the first things I do is I immediately share it with someone. And I know that sounds weird because I'm promoting the negativity, but actually it's the opposite point. The whole point is once I share it with someone and rant about it, I'm done, and the thought effectively leaves my head, right? And from that point onward, I'm good. Because I'm like, okay, cool, it's done. Stuff like that, right? If I'm having trouble with a specific part of a game, the thing that tends to make me feel better is actually either overcoming that part of the game or just being good at gaming in general to remind myself that I'm not actually terrible. It's stuff like that, right? You get the general gist. So I get the idea of Saki. It doesn't work for me specifically. Maybe I should try again. I don't know. Just have a sock puppet like right here. Do they have like Pusheen sock puppet? Now you got me questioning. Hang on. Actually called stress balls. Here we go. Oh my god, it looks like they do. Yep, nope, they do. My niece might like one of those. What, there's animals? Where's animals? I don't see any animals. Do I have to pay for this stock footage? That's an interesting question I'm going to immediately walk by. So, now let's see. Words. So we're at the halfway point of the episode, right? Cool. We're done with a deer. Wow. With Calliope being irritating, right? Actually, no. Because the next thing that happens is she immediately flings Cassandra's sword away and insists, because she insisted she was doing it wrong, and it's Rapunzel's fault that she flung the sword away. Cool. Then they see the ivy vines, which poor Lance is already suffering from, and says, yeah, let's go around like I just suggested. Cool. And then I almost start to barely feel like she has some shred of human decency. And then she takes credit for Lance finding this to the cave. Cool. You know, fiction likes to play this trick. And this is the last... Ironically, this is pretty much the last note I have in my list. I don't have much to say about this episode. We need to come up with a term for this. Something that fiction likes to do. MLP was guilty of this as well. A lot of short-form fiction is very guilty of this. It's that thing where we need to establish A so that we can have a transition into B. Whether that's good guy to bad guy, or irritating to humble, or irritating to helpful, or egotistical to humble, right? You know what I'm talking about. Fiction likes to do this thing where it's like we need to quickly and efficiently establish A so we can then have the transition into B, whatever that is. And there's lots of different things this could take the form of. The problem isn't that. The problem is when fiction does this badly. And it's actually pretty common in 22s, these kind of short form episodes, where they just want to establish them so hard and fast that they way over exaggerate it to the point where it actually becomes unbelievable that they go from being that awful to that good, essentially at the flip of a switch. And yeah, Trixie has this exact same problem over in MLP a couple of times. Yeah, it's a severe amount of exaggeration to establish the character to then have them change. And it's the severe exaggeration part that's really the problem here. Rather than having any kind of nuance or subtlety or layers or hints or development or arc, instead it's just, Mwahaha, I like eating dead puppies. And then the other person says, well, you know, I had a puppy when I was a kid. And she's like, it's true, I had a puppy too, and that's why I ate dead puppies. I was good all along. And then she helped save all the puppies. Right, like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And it is weirdly common. Trek does this too, by the way. Even 44s are guilty of this kind of thing, where they'll establish someone as being way, way, way too much A, so they can switch it to B. Now, I do actually like calling this a Calliope syndrome, or a Calliope character. That's got a ring to it. Calliope character also has alliteration, which always appeals to me. And, I don't know, what are y'all thinking? Because that's, workable. It's so easy to pronounce, though, Lord Harriman. Will anyone know what it means? Who cares? Who knows who Krennic is? I still use it. Nobody knows who Krennic is. Yes, we'll throw her from the top of the Spire. You have to say it right. You see, it's French, you see. Anyways, I do like Calliope character. That's a let's workshop that, but let's pencil that in for now. So, anyways, Calliope is very much a Calliope character in this episode, and I need to finish writing down these dragon quests. Sorry. Thank you, Scott K. Bar, for the sub. As always, appreciate your support. Thank you. You say that, Loke. I know a lot of people who don't actually know who Krennic is. Like, if you say it's a Vader, sure, but Krennic? He was a major character in a side movie that a lot of people haven't even seen as part of a fandom that certainly is popular, but again, it's that Andor thing, right? There's a reason Mandalorian was more popular than Andor was. Still, we know what the term is, a Krennic. I mean, I still use the term cloud effect, for God's sakes. So, Calliope's it up for a bit. It's such a good example of it, isn't it? We could call it Trixie, but the problem is Trixie's actually a good character. They just screwed her up once. I even can tell you the specific episode they screwed her up in, too. So they get to the vault. Cool. And it was all a test from the beginning. Okay. And then Tony Amendola shows up, who is thoroughly wasted in this role. For those of you not aware, Tony Amendola is an awesome voice actor. You've probably heard before somewhere. He plays Khadgar over in Warcraft. But he's played a bunch of roles over the years. The biggest thing I think I saw him in before now was actually Stargate, of all things. He's great, though. He was even in World of Final Fantasy as the main villain, for example. So he's cool and wasted. Unless he comes back after this, this was just... What? You just brought in Tony Amendola for random asshole... Okay. I also noticed there were a lot of artifacts in the background of the vault that were from other Disney properties. The one that caught my mind immediately was the Sword in the Stone. So then Cassandra has this wonderful blank face. That's a good animation touch for this episode as she's going to murder Calliope. And we see the scroll! Okay, we did it. The whole episode... Oh, it'd actually be really funny, Lord Harriman. The scroll! We've got the scroll, and it reveals that there's a guy in a hood and that gemstone thing from earlier. Wow, that sure was worth that effort. Boy, I'm really glad that we put all that effort into that. That was... Why did we do this again? Yeah, what happens if they just didn't arrive? Like, what? Yeah, let's just let Cass cook. Let's just let her get her murder boner on. It's fine. I'm cool with it. We're all cool with it. So let's rate this sucker. Oh my god, that's it. Shorty was supplanted by Calliope. Makes so much sense. I'm actually torn on this one. It's not a terribly bad episode. Like, I mean, Calliope drags the episode down, I'm not going to lie to you. But again, the fact that Calliope is bad to them and us, that helps. Where would I slot Varian in? That's actually a good question. I was thinking about that, because I noticed they didn't actually bring the caravan up with this. So my first thought was they left Varian back with the caravan. Having said that, they could most easily slot Varian in as Lance, you know, the one who stole the binoculars. And then got the itches. I know that wouldn't fit perfectly, but that's the closest thing I got. I would leave him back in the caravan. Just leave him not in this episode. I agree that there's not enough here for a blue. I'd love to give it blue, but I can't because the rest of the episode is simply too high quality. I am going to give it a green, however. This is kind of a nothing burger, which was generally fun and enjoyable, which is pretty much usually the definition of yellow. And then we add Calliope to the mix, which drags it back to green. So that's all I got. These are short. I apologize. I have not had a lot to talk about lately. I guess that's what happens when we run into these kind of Monster of the Week episodes. I know this looked like a central episode. I know this looked like a plot episode, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't, was it? This really did feel a little bit like a side quest episode. Even though it structurally feels like it fits as a main quest episode. This is a weird one. Yeah, Calliope was the Monster of the Week. Ain't that the truth? Anyways. Next episode's going to be Season 2, Episode 8, King Pascal. I wanted to comment on something very, very briefly, if I can, because I noticed something about the season. Season 1 and 2 both got a 21-episode stint and a pilot. So I also noticed that quite a few of these episodes are two-parter specials, is what they call them. So they gave a pretty decent amount of support for Season 1 and Season 2. Season 3 only got 17 episodes, and that's including a special. I'm not really bringing up anything specific here. I just find myself wondering if the show might have benefited from being a little bit more shrunk so they don't have to have this much filler. Because, yeah, no, Disney did this kind of thing quite a bit, and, I mean, Disney's not even alone in that, for God's sakes. Hell, have you looked at TOS's seasonal spread sometime? It's wild to think about. That's in the 60s. Anyways, I was just looking at the episode and randomly thinking about that because I see these kind of filler episodes, and while filler doesn't have to necessarily be bad, it feels like in many cases they're just floundering a little bit as they keep trying to do this push forward, moving caravan kind of concept, the Voyager concept. I don't know. We'll see where it goes next in King Pascal.